So what do you, I imagine this is a large part of your job and your role, but what do you love about numbers and math?
Oh no.
My camera sometimes does that. I don't even
Okay.
know why.
Okay. I thought
For the listeners on the podcast, I have a DSLR setup and with a Canon TI5, I hook it up to my computer. And like every 20 minutes, the lens just shuts off and turns back on. So that's typically what it is.
Okay.
I don't know.
Good to know.
There'll be like another one too, probably. So
okay. Good to know.
But getting back to numbers and math.
Numbers. Yeah. So
that's problem solving, right? The lens.
Yeah.
That's not my forte necessarily.
Okay. So numbers. I love that math, there is always an answer. Like, even if there's multiple answers, or even if the answer is like, it's undefined, like there's always an answer and there's always a different way to solve it, which is fascinating to me. To be able to ask like 5 different people, hey, solve this problem, or hey, how do you the big one that's always on my mind is how people tip on their restaurant like receipt.
Oh, I can tell you a lot about that. I bartend on the weekends.
Oh, no way. Okay, cool. It's like how do you get to that number? Like, not just you throwing a number out, but like how do you take a percentage? You know, that fascinates me. Every time I go to the restaurant, I'm like, how do you do this? How do you do this? Because I do it in a way where I'm just like, that's so different. Or like, every person will give you a different answer. And that's so cool to me.
How do you tip?
I usually move the decimal point 1 to the left. So if it's like $50, be like, okay, $5 times 2, that'd be 10, which is 20. And then I add off of that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people are like, well, I divide by 5 or whatever, you know, 1/5 is 20%. Yeah.
Yeah, I get yeah, so there's that way. I think that's pretty standard way. But that's a nice flat number, 50. So say you have like 2691.
That's true.
People like just zeros or fives, like numbers. Just so they'll just want to get to that 30 or that 35. And then it's like 307 or like 807.
See, I was never that person. I have a couple girlfriends who would be like, they just want to make it to the whole number. And I'm like, ugh, like that's so like, it's an ugly number that you're dealing with. Like, just take the 20%. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And then some people are very like rigid. It's like 20% or 15% or whatever. And then it's interesting. Service industry, people that work service industry just tip ridiculously well. So then it's like, oh, it's $20. All right, here's another 15 or another 20 or whatever.
Which is great. Yeah.
The other day, I got a $100 tip on a $143 tab. It was good.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a regular. So, and it's interesting too, like, cause tipping, I mean, we're going in this whole other direction here, but tipping, it's really interesting because it teaches you about generosity and teaches you about people. And what people don't realize is that generosity goes a long way. So
100%.
100%. It's pretty obvious, but yeah. So if it's busy and I know someone tips really well, guess who is always going to get the greatest service, right? Yep. And it's, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, tipping is important.
It's super important. And I try, you know, at least I started this thing a couple months ago where, you know, I feel like, this is going to sound so cheesy. I'm like, if you feel like you have an abundance of not things, or just like abundance of love, of friendship, of like not tangible things, like you need to like also give that to other people. And so if that made any sense, but I would start tipping like crazy amounts, and just like every once in a while when I could, is just like just to do it and then leave and not even see the person's reaction, and just and it just, you don't do it to make yourself feel good. You do it so that you can just give to other people too. I think it's important.
I think the biggest thing on parlaying off of that note, it's like people are coming from either like a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset. And
For
so
sure.
if people are like limiting what they're giving because they're trying to like be protective of like what what their bank account is, or like, oh, I only do this, or I did, there's like all these other intangible things where if you just give more, it will always come back to you in some type of way.
Yes.
Whether it's service, whether it's a greeting, a conversation, it just leads into so many other things that are a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And then it makes someone feel better, which means they're going to just be elevated as a person and be doing better for other people. And it goes outside of tipping itself, but in the world as well.
Yes, it's infectious. And I know this week we're on site one week and then off one week where we telework. And this was my teleworking week. And so sometimes on my teleworking week, I can just slip into like, I'm just going to sit on my couch and work. And sometimes it's not the greatest. You get into that like lazy, I'm not going to work out, I'm going to order takeout, like just like all week. And it's not, the greatest, but I was kind of in a slump this week. And yesterday I was like, I'm just going to go out of my way to like compliment people, not like fake compliments, but compliment people. If I see someone with a sign on the side of the road that's like, I need help, I'm going to give, I'm just going to go the extra mile. And it was amazing. It like got me out of my slump. Yeah, it was. So it's just like a testament to be like, if you are greeting people, if you're giving out happiness, like it comes back.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.